The mysterious crash. The sun was setting over the quiet forest, casting long shadows over the trees. A peaceful silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant rustling of leaves and the occasional chirp of birds. It was the kind of evening where nothing unexpected ever happened, or at least that's what Jason thought. Jason, a young man in his 20s, was taking a walk through the woods, enjoying the last few hours of daylight. He wasn't thinking about anything in particular, just the calm of nature. But that was about to change. Without warning, a loud, thunderous crash shattered the calm. The ground beneath Jason's feet trembled as though something enormous had just hit it. His heart skipped a beat. The sound was like nothing he'd ever heard before, unlike the typical noise of thunder or an airplane passing overhead. This was different. It was more unnatural. Jason stood frozen, his eyes wide with shock. Then the air filled with a thick, heavy smoke. The strange, acrid smell of something burning reached Jason's nose, and he instinctively covered his mouth with his sleeve. What was that? It couldn't be a plane crash. He didn't hear anything overhead. His curiosity quickly overcame his fear. He had to find out what had just happened. He turned and started running towards the source of the sound, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea what to expect, but something told him that this wasn't just a random accident. As he ran, the thickening smoke became more intense. The trees around him started to seem darker, their shadows growing longer as the sun dipped lower. The forest was becoming eerie, and Jason's pace quickened. After a few minutes, he broke through a thick line of trees and found himself in a small clearing. There, in the center of the clearing, lay the wreckage. A large, metallic object was partially buried in the ground, steam and smoke rising from it. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. Its surface was smooth and shiny, reflecting the dimming light of the sun in strange, unnatural ways. But it wasn't just the ship itself that caught Jason's attention. What really made his heart race was what lay near the wreckage. There, lying on the ground, was a figure. At first, Jason thought it might be another person, someone who had survived the crash. But as he stepped closer, he froze. This wasn't a person. The figure was a woman, an alien woman. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, glowing faintly in the fading light. She wore strange, silver armor that looked both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Her long hair shimmered like liquid silver, and her eyes, large and wide, were filled with fear and desperation. Jason couldn't move. He was staring at her, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The alien woman was lying on the ground, her body shaking. She seemed to be in pain, but her eyes met his, and for a moment, time seemed to slow down. "Help me," her voice was barely a whisper, but it felt like a shout in the quiet forest. Jason's breath caught in his throat. Her voice was soft but filled with such sadness that he couldn't ignore it. He wanted to help, but what could he possibly do? This wasn't just some injured human. This was an alien, a being from another world. He was completely out of his depth. The woman's breathing became more rapid, her hands trembling as she reached out toward him. "Please," she said again, her voice desperate. "You have to help me. I have nowhere to go. I have no one else." Jason could hardly believe what he was hearing. He looked around nervously, wondering if someone else was watching him. Was this some kind of trap? But no one was around, just the wreckage and this alien woman who seemed so lost. She was beautiful in a way that Jason couldn't describe. Her features were delicate and strange, but there was something human about her eyes. The way she looked at him made him feel a connection, like she was begging him to understand something important. For a moment, Jason thought about turning back. It would be so easy to run, to forget everything he had seen. But he couldn't. Something about her pulled him in. He stepped forward cautiously, his heart beating faster with every step. What are you?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The alien woman's eyes filled with something like relief. She tried to sit up but stumbled, clearly weak from the crash. She gasped in pain and held herself steady with one hand on the ground. I'm from a distant planet," she said in a soft voice. I was sent to another world. My ship crashed. I don't know where I am." Jason knelt beside her, trying to stay calm, though everything in his mind was screaming at him to run. She wasn't from this world. She wasn't even human. But why did she seem so vulnerable? Before he could speak again, the woman looked up at him, her eyes full of sorrow. Please, she whispered. I have no one, I beg you. Please help me. Jason hesitated for only a moment. He didn't understand why, but something inside him said that he couldn't leave her there. He couldn't just walk away from someone in need, no matter how strange or impossible the situation seemed. With a deep breath, Jason reached out to help her. Okay, I'll help you. As soon as the words left his mouth, the alien's face softened. She smiled, just slightly, but it was enough. She was grateful. And for the first time since the crash, Jason felt like he was doing the right thing. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a much larger adventure, one that would change his life forever. The desperate plea. Jason's heart raced as he helped the alien woman to her feet. Her body was light, almost weightless in his arms, but her energy felt faint, as though she had just fought off something much bigger than herself. She shivered slightly as the cool evening air touched her glowing skin. The first thing Jason noticed as she stood up was the strange aura around her, something like a faint glow that seemed to pulse, almost like a heartbeat. It wasn't the kind of light that came from the stars above, nor was it like any human technology he knew. It was otherworldly. The alien's eyes met his again, and for a split second, Jason felt as though she was looking right into his soul, reading every thought, every doubt he had. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice still weak but growing stronger by the second. There was a trace of panic in her tone, a kind of fear Jason hadn't heard before, and it made his stomach tighten. "What is this place? I've never seen a world like this, I thought." She paused, looking at the sky, and then quickly turned her gaze back to him. "I thought I was on my way to a different planet." Jason swallowed hard. "This is Earth. You're on Earth. You crashed here." His voice sounded so ordinary in comparison to the foreign world she must have come from, but he couldn't deny it. He had to keep calm. She needed help, and whether he was ready or not, he was now involved. The alien took a few shaky steps forward, her movements graceful but uncertain. She winced, her knees wobbling beneath her as if standing was a challenge. Jason instinctively reached out to steady her. She glanced at him, her expression vulnerable, almost as if she wasn't used to being helped. I don't know what's happening to me," she said, her voice trembling now as though fear was slowly taking over. I'm not supposed to be here, my people. She stopped herself, clenching her fists as though gathering the courage to continue. "My name is Zuria. I'm not supposed to need anyone. I was sent to conquer, to rule, but now I am nothing. I don't even know where to go. I don't know what to do." Jason could feel the weight of her words in his chest. Conquer? Rule? Her? She didn't look like a conqueror. She looked like someone who had lost everything. He didn't know what to say. His mind was racing, trying to understand how someone like her, someone so otherworldly, could be so fragile. "I have no choice, human," Zuria said suddenly, as if she had read his thoughts. Her voice was strained, as though admitting her desperation was a painful thing. "If I cannot find someone to serve, I will die. My people are cursed. They have no freedom. We are bound by our laws. I must find someone, and I beg you." Her eyes locked onto his again, and there was something in them that felt like an invitation and a warning at the same time. "Please, let me serve you." Jason stepped back, his mind spinning with confusion. Serve him? What did that mean? How could she serve him? Was she asking him to become some kind of master? His hand instinctively went to his pocket, feeling for his phone. This wasn't a situation he could understand or explain. But Zuria shook her head as if sensing his unease. "I do not want to rule you, human. I only want to survive." Her voice was quiet, almost broken. "My people were once powerful, but after the rebellion they were cursed. Cursed to serve others, humans specifically. We must obey your kind or perish." Jason's stomach churned. He couldn't process what she was saying. It sounded like a twisted fairy tale, a nightmare, but her desperation felt all too real. The look in her eyes was genuine. She wasn't lying. This wasn't some elaborate story to get his sympathy. "But why me?" Jason asked, trying to make sense of it. "Why me? Why a human?" Zuria lowered her gaze, her shoulders slumping. "It is the law of my people," she said softly. "It was made long ago, and now only the humans can save us or destroy us." Jason wanted to ask more, to learn everything, but there was a noise, faint at first, that interrupted his thoughts. It was a low hum, a vibration that seemed to ripple through the ground beneath their feet. His instincts told him something was wrong. He glanced around, but the forest was silent again, save for the faint sound of the wind in the trees. Zuria's eyes widened. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "My enemies, they've found me." Jason's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea who they were, but something told him they weren't the type to show mercy. He turned his head to look around, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound, but the forest seemed to be closing in on them, like a dark, suffocating trap. Before he could say anything, Zuria took a step back, her body tense. "You don't understand," she said, her voice shaking. "They will not stop until they have me. They want to destroy me. To make an example of me, you must run." "Run," Jason's voice rose in disbelief. "What do you mean run? I can't just leave you here." But Zuria's face had grown pale, her body trembling. "If they take me, they will kill you too. I cannot let that happen." Jason's thoughts were racing now. He couldn't leave her. He couldn't just run away. She was the one who needed saving. He had no idea what he was up against, but he couldn't abandon her. Not now. The hum grew louder, and Jason's fear turned to determination. The alien woman, Zuria, needed his help. The situation had gone from strange to dangerous in the blink of an eye, and Jason realized that there was no turning back. Whatever came next, he would have to face it head-on. "Don't worry," Jason said, his voice firm even though he wasn't sure what he was saying. "I'm not going anywhere. You're not alone." As the ground began to shake beneath their feet once more, Jason knew one thing for certain. Their lives had just changed forever. The alien story. The air around them felt heavy now, as though the forest itself had become an ominous presence, holding its breath. Jason's senses were heightened, every rustling leaf and distant crackling sound making his pulse race. He could feel the tension in the air as Zuria's body stiffened, her delicate features drawn in fear. The hum of energy had grown into a low, vibrating roar, and it was clear that danger was closing in. Zuria's eyes flickered with something close to panic, but before Jason could say anything more, she took a deep breath. Her hands, trembling ever so slightly, pressed against the ground as though trying to ground herself in the midst of the overwhelming fear. She had to explain. She had to make Jason understand. "They're not just after me," Zuria whispered, her voice shaking but filled with urgency. "They're after all of us, my people. My race, they were once rulers of the stars, masters of entire galaxies, but that was before the rebellion." Jason could hardly process her words. He didn't know what was happening or what she meant by rulers of the stars or rebellion. But he knew that whatever it was, it had something to do with the wreckage with her and the danger now heading toward them. Zuria looked into his eyes with an intensity that startled him, as if she could see into his very thoughts. "We were powerful, we were invincible," she continued, her voice faltering as she spoke. "But then it all fell apart. A rebellion tore us apart. My people lost everything. Our power, our freedom, we were cursed to serve, to obey, and now I am no exception." Jason felt a chill run down his spine. This was no ordinary alien. She wasn't a simple explorer or wanderer. She was part of a fallen empire, a ruler turned prisoner. "We were made to serve humans," Zuria said quietly, almost as though the words themselves caused her pain. "The laws of my people say that we must serve a human or die, but we have no control. We are bound to you, your kind, and if I do not find someone to serve, I will perish." She glanced away as though ashamed. Jason struggled to make sense of it all. "Why humans? Why would your people be bound to serve us?" His voice came out hoarse, as if the weight of her words was already taking its toll. Zuria turned her gaze toward the forest, the fading light casting a strange glow over her features. "It's not a choice. It was the law set long ago by the founders of my people. They believed that humans would be the key to our survival, but it has become a curse." Her voice trembled as she looked down at her hands. "Now every member of my race must serve a human, whether we want to or not. It's a law that has trapped us all, and it's why we are hunted." Jason's mind spun with confusion. "So you're telling me that your people, your entire race, is bound to obey and serve humans or they die?" "Yes," Zuria whispered, her expression sorrowful. "We are forced to obey. We must either serve humans in any way we are commanded or we are left to die. Some accept it, some rebel, but most—" She faltered for a moment, clearly struggling with the weight of her words. "Most are like me. We are forced to surrender our freedom." Jason's heart pounded in his chest. The very idea seemed impossible. How could an entire race of powerful beings be so helpless? How could they be enslaved by a law they didn't choose? I didn't choose this, she added, her voice tinged with regret and a raw vulnerability. I didn't want to be like this, but I need someone to let me serve them, otherwise I won't survive. Jason's thoughts raced. His mind tried to piece everything together. She had been powerful, a ruler in another galaxy, and now she was reduced to begging him for help. He didn't understand the depths of this alien world she spoke of, but he could see the sincerity in her eyes. "And if I say no?" Jason asked, unsure of what he was really asking. Zuria's eyes widened and her lips parted as if she were about to say something but paused. She closed her eyes for a moment as if steeling herself. "Then I would fade away. My body would start to weaken, I would lose everything, and eventually I would die. It's the curse." Jason's chest tightened. There was something heartbreaking in her words, something so final and desperate. He couldn't just let her die. He couldn't walk away and pretend none of this was happening. He had a choice now, whether he liked it or not. But before he could respond, a deep growl echoed through the trees, the sound of something large and powerful moving through the forest. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up and his heart raced. Zuria froze. Her eyes scanned the woods, her body tense as though she could feel the presence of the approaching threat. "They've found us," she whispered. "They will not stop. We cannot run. We cannot hide." Jason's breath caught in his throat. Who were they, her enemies, the ones who would kill her? Before he could ask, a dark figure emerged from the trees, tall, powerful, and menacing. Its skin was dark and rough, like the bark of a tree, and its eyes glowed with a cold, unfeeling light. Another one followed, and then another. Soon the clearing was filled with strange, alien figures, all with the same terrifying look in their eyes. Zuria stepped back, her hands trembling, her eyes wide with terror. "It's them, my enemies, the ones who hunt us, the ones who make sure we serve if they catch me." Jason's mind raced. He had no weapon, no plan, but the urgency in Zuria's voice, the fear in her eyes, made something inside him snap. He had to protect her. No one else was going to help. "Stay behind me," Jason said, his voice low but filled with a sudden resolve. "I won't let them take you." Zuria gave him a look, part disbelief, part gratitude, and for the first time since their strange encounter, she nodded. "Thank you." As the alien hunters closed in, Jason could feel the weight of the moment. His life had just changed in ways he couldn't have imagined, and there was no turning back. The reluctant protector. Jason's breath hitched as the alien hunters moved closer. Their cold, calculating eyes locked onto Zuria with an almost predatory hunger. They weren't just here for a confrontation, they were here to claim her. And Jason realized in that moment that the stakes had never been higher. Zuria took a cautious step back, her once glowing skin now dimming in fear. Her body was trembling, not from the chill in the air, but from a kind of terror that Jason couldn't fully understand. These were no ordinary enemies. Jason's mind raced, but his body seemed to move on its own. There was no way out. The alien figures circled them, their dark, leathery skin blending into the shadows of the trees. They had an aura of control, as if they commanded the night itself. One of them, taller than the others, stepped forward, its mouth curling into what could have been a smirk. It spoke in a guttural language that sounded like 1,000 growls combined. Zuria flinched at the sound, and Jason instinctively placed himself in front of her, though he had no idea what he was doing. His body screamed at him to run, but his feet were glued to the earth, his eyes fixed on the threat before them. The tall alien raised a hand, its fingers curling as if to signal the others to stop. The movement was slow, deliberate, like the calm before a storm. Zuria's eyes widened with a mix of fear and recognition. "They've come for me," she whispered. "I can't fight them, I can't escape them." Jason's heart pounded as he glanced at Zuria. "Don't worry, I won't let them take you." Zuria shook her head, her voice filled with sorrow. "It's not that simple, you don't understand, I can't just stay with you, they will never stop. My people are doomed, Jason. There is no running from this." The tall alien stepped closer, and Jason instinctively moved to shield Zuria again. The creature's eyes flickered with amusement, though there was nothing light about the gaze. You think you can protect her, human? The voice was low, like the sound of stones grinding together. She is ours. She belongs to us, just as your kind will soon belong to us. Jason's blood ran cold, but there was something in his chest, something fierce and defiant, that kept him standing firm. He wasn't going to let these creatures take Zarya. He didn't know what kind of power they held or how they worked, but he knew one thing: he wasn't going to lose her without a fight. I don't care what you think, Jason said, his voice low but steady. I'm not letting you have her. The alien's eyes narrowed. You are brave but foolish. You know nothing of what you're dealing with. We will break you both. We have the power. Zarya's eyes filled with regret, and she stepped forward, placing a hand on Jason's arm. You don't understand, Jason. They don't fight for themselves. They fight for the law that has bound me. We cannot defeat them without risking everything. Jason looked at her, the fear in her eyes tugging at his heart, but something else was growing inside him. A sense of responsibility, a bond between them that was stronger than just survival. He wasn't going to leave her side, no matter what it took. Suddenly there was a sharp crackle from the sky above. A blue light flashed, and for a moment everything seemed to pause. The air around them seemed to shift, and the alien hunters looked up, their expressions faltering. Zarya gasped, her eyes scanning the sky. They're here, my people, they've come. Jason's confusion deepened. Your people, I thought they were all lost. What do you mean? But before she could answer, the sky above them crackled again, and a massive ship appeared, descending through the mist. It was unlike anything Jason had ever seen. The vessel shimmered with a dark, ethereal energy, as if it were alive, a swirling mass of metallic surfaces and flowing lights. It hovered above them, casting a cold shadow over the clearing. The alien hunters, once confident, now froze, their faces filled with both fear and awe. They turned to one another, exchanging quick glances, but they didn't move. Zarya's hand tightened on Jason's arm, her voice soft but urgent. We need to go. They will destroy us all if we stay. I'm not the only one they want. They will take everything. You don't understand the danger, Jason. This is bigger than us. Jason's mind was racing, torn between the strange alien world Zarya had revealed and the terrifying new threats in front of him. But the sight of the ship, of the power it radiated, sent a chill through him. These were forces beyond anything he had ever imagined. The large, towering figure of the lead hunter stepped forward again, its voice filled with venom. You think they will save you, Zarya? You think they can stop us? We will have you. We will have all of you. The ship above them began to lower, its engines pulsing with dark energy. Zarya's face twisted with a mix of dread and regret, but there was something else in her eyes, a flicker of hope. I don't want to fight, she whispered, but I will do anything to protect you now. You're the only one who can save me. Jason clenched his fists. The odds seemed impossible. He wasn't a soldier, wasn't prepared for any of this. But one thing was clear: whatever this war was, whatever this struggle meant, he couldn't just walk away. He had made a choice the moment he decided to protect Zarya. There was no turning back now. The ship's engines roared louder, and the alien hunters moved to take action. It was clear they were prepared for a fight, but so was Jason. As the ground began to shake, he realized something. Zarya was right. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about a battle for freedom, for their lives. And Jason wasn't going to lose her. Not today, not ever. Stay close, Jason said, his voice filled with newfound determination. We're getting out of here. With that, he took Zarya's hand, and they ran. The night had turned into chaos, the air thick with danger, but Jason's resolve burned brighter than ever. For the first time in his life, he wasn't running from something. He was running toward it. The truth revealed. The ground trembled beneath Jason's feet as he sprinted with Zarya, the roar of the alien ship growing louder with each passing second. The alien hunters, once confident, now seemed unnerved by the arrival of the ship. But Jason had no time to process their reaction. His instincts told him that every second mattered, and if they didn't get out of the clearing, they wouldn't make it. Zarya's grip tightened around his hand, her alien skin cold and slick with fear. Jason could feel her trembling, but there was something else in her, a sense of urgency, a drive to survive that pushed her forward despite the odds. Where are we going? Jason panted, glancing over his shoulder. The alien hunters had begun to follow, their massive forms moving with unnatural speed. The ship above them now loomed ominously, casting a dark shadow that stretched across the trees, its engines humming with eerie power. "We need to get to the mountains," Zuriah said between breaths. Her voice was shaky but filled with determination. "There's a hidden base there, a place my people have kept secret for centuries. Only they know about it. It's our last chance." Jason barely processed the words. The mountains? Hidden base? His mind was still spinning from the chaos, but whatever was happening, he had to trust her. She had been honest with him so far, and in this moment, she was the only thing standing between him and the complete unknown. A sudden explosion shattered the air, sending a shockwave through the forest. Jason staggered, his ears ringing as debris flew past them. One of the alien hunters had fired at the ship above them, and the attack caused the ship's engines to flare dangerously. Zuriah gasped, her eyes widening in horror. "No, they're trying to destroy us." Before Jason could react, the ship's engines pulsed violently, and an intense beam of light shot out from the underside of the ship, striking the ground in front of them. It carved a path through the forest, disintegrating everything in its path. Trees crumbled, the earth split, and the air grew thick with smoke and dust. Jason's breath caught in his throat as he tugged Zuriah forward. "We need to move faster, now." But Zuriah didn't seem to hear him. Her gaze was fixed on the ship above them, her face pale with terror. "No, this isn't just about me," she whispered, barely audible over the chaos. "You don't understand, Jason. This isn't just a rescue. This is a trap." Jason stopped in his tracks, confusion flooding his mind. "A trap? What do you mean? I thought your people were coming to save you." Zuriah shook her head slowly, her expression haunted. "The ship that's coming? It's not here to save us. It's here to test you, to see if you're worthy of the power. This isn't just about helping me. It's about a decision that will change everything. You'll have to choose Jason." Jason's chest tightened. What was she talking about? What choice? He had already made up his mind to help her. That was the only thing that mattered, wasn't it? But as Zuriah's words sank in, he realized that there was more at play here than he could possibly understand. And whatever it was bigger than both of them. "You'll need to decide quickly," Zuriah continued, her voice trembling with the weight of what she was saying. "If you don't, they will take us both. But if you make the wrong choice, you'll lose everything. You could end up like us, like my people." Jason felt a surge of panic, but it was quickly replaced by a strange sense of clarity. He wasn't going to lose Zuriah, not now. He had to keep moving, had to keep fighting for her. But the world around them seemed to warp as the beam of light from the ship continued to cut through the trees. The forest was beginning to break apart, the ground cracking beneath their feet. The entire landscape seemed to be shifting, as if something was pulling them into a new reality. Zuriah's eyes flickered with understanding, and her voice softened. "This isn't just about survival, Jason. The truth is, we never really had the power to begin with. We thought we could conquer the stars, but we were wrong. My people, we were cursed, but you have the power to change everything." Jason's head spun. "What do you mean? I'm just a guy from Earth. I don't have any kind of power." Zuriah gave him a sad, knowing look. "No, you don't understand. The law that binds my people, those who must serve humans, it's not just a curse, it's a test. A test to see if humans are capable of holding the power to rule. You see, the rebellion, it wasn't just my people fighting back against the old order. It was a test to see if humans could survive the power we once held. And now you're at the center of it." Jason's mind reeled. Power? Ruling. This wasn't just a random crash landing. This wasn't just about saving Zuriah. This was about something much larger than he had ever imagined. Before he could respond, the tall alien hunter that had spoken earlier stepped forward once again. His eyes were full of disdain as he slowly raised his hand, a cold, menacing smile playing at the edges of his lips. "Enough," the hunter growled. "We have no more time for games. The test is over. The ship will decide your fate, human." Jason stepped forward instinctively, his body tensed with anger and fear. "You don't get to decide anything," he said, his voice low and steady. "You want her, you'll have to go through me." The hunter's eyes gleamed with amusement, but the moment was broken by a sudden, piercing sound. a high-pitched whine that seemed to vibrate through the very air around them. The ship's energy beam ceased, and the sky overhead shifted, growing darker, more oppressive. The ground beneath them cracked open like a wound, and out of it emerged a figure cloaked in darkness, a figure that radiated power unlike anything Jason had ever felt before. Zarya gasped, her face paling further. No, it's him. It's the one who has controlled everything from the beginning, the one who created the law, who cursed my people. The dark figure stepped forward, its voice like 1,000 whispers. I am the one who decides, Zarya, and now, human, you will be forced to choose. Will you claim the power that my people never had the courage to wield? Or will you condemn yourself and your world to the same fate? Jason felt a chill wash over him as the figure's eyes locked onto his. This wasn't just about Zarya. This was about something much larger, something ancient, something that could shape the future of not just their lives, but the fate of every human on Earth. The choice was his, but what was the right one? The choice. The air was thick with tension, the darkness closing in as the cloaked figure stepped forward, its presence overwhelming. Jason's heart hammered in his chest, every instinct screaming at him to run, to find some way out of this impossible situation. But there was nowhere to go, not anymore. Zarya's grip tightened around Jason's arm, her once glowing eyes now dull with fear and uncertainty. She looked at him, her face pale, her breath shallow. The ship that hovered above them had become a menacing presence, its dark, swirling energy casting shadows that seemed to stretch toward them like fingers. The alien hunters had frozen, their faces a mixture of awe and terror, as if the true power of this moment had finally revealed itself. The figure before them was tall, cloaked in a swirling black mist that seemed to move with a life of its own. Its eyes, glowing a piercing red, locked onto Jason as though piercing straight through him. The ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble, the very atmosphere heavy with an otherworldly energy. I am the one who holds the law, the figure said, its voice an unsettling whisper like 1,000 voices speaking in unison. The law that binds the fate of your kind, Zarya, and the fate of yours, human. Jason swallowed hard, trying to steady his breathing. He wasn't sure what to make of this being, whether it was some kind of god, an alien overlord, or something far more ancient. But one thing was certain, it wasn't here for any of them to survive unscathed. It had come to make a choice, his choice. Zarya, still shaking, stepped forward, her voice strained. I never wanted this, Jason. I never wanted to put you in danger, but if you decide wrong, they will never stop. They will hunt us until we're gone, until everyone is gone. Jason's mind was racing, trying to process everything he had learned in such a short amount of time. The alien hunters, the law that bound Zarya's people, the truth that humans might hold the power to change the universe's balance. None of it made sense, but the weight of it was crushing. The figure, sensing his hesitation, spoke again. You have a choice, human. You have the power to decide. Will you claim the power that Zarya's people could never control? Will you claim dominion over the stars, as her ancestors once did? Or will you destroy the law, break the chains, and send everything spiraling into chaos? Jason looked at Zarya. Her face was a mask of anguish, and he could see the pain in her eyes. She wasn't just a prisoner. She was a victim of a twisted law that had enslaved her people for generations. But at the same time, she wasn't just an innocent alien. She was part of something much larger, a conflict that spanned galaxies, that shaped the very fate of entire civilizations. The figure's red eyes glowed brighter. Your decision will shape the future of not only Zarya's race, but of your world as well. The choice is simple. Wield the power of the ancient law, claim the throne that was once meant for the rulers of the stars. Or destroy it and watch everything fall into ruin. Jason's mind was spinning. He had never wanted power. He had never even dreamed of it. He was just a normal guy trying to live a quiet life. But now, the fate of an entire race, the future of humanity, was in his hands. His eyes flicked to Zarya. She was the one who had shown him the truth about the law that bound her, about the power that had torn her people apart. But what if he could change it? What if he could break the chains, not just for Zarya, but for everyone? But then, a darker thought crept into his mind. What if that same power, that same ability to change the universe, could destroy everything? What if the law wasn't just a prison? It was a necessary order that held the universe together. The figure's voice cut through his thoughts like a blade. Time is running out, human. You must choose. What will it be? Jason took a deep breath, his gaze never leaving the figure. He had to make a decision, not just for Zuriah, not just for the universe, but for himself. He wasn't some puppet in an ancient game. He wasn't some pawn to be moved and discarded. He had the power to choose, and that meant he could decide who he wanted to be. I choose, Jason's voice was steady, but his mind was still a storm. I choose to break the law. The moment the words left his mouth, the ground beneath their feet shook violently. The figure before them hissed, its red eyes flickering with rage, but there was something else there too, something like fear. You fool, the figure growled. You have no idea what you've done. The law is not just a chain. It is the fabric that holds everything together. Break it and everything will unravel. You cannot stop the consequences. Jason stood firm, his heart pounding but his resolve stronger than ever. I'm not going to let anyone suffer like this anymore. I'm not going to let you control us. The figure's red eyes flickered again, and the air around them seemed to grow even heavier. Then you will see, human. You will witness the destruction that follows when you choose to defy the ancient order. Suddenly, the alien hunters, who had been standing still, turned in unison and began to retreat, their movements swift and synchronized. Jason barely had time to process their departure before the sky above them darkened even further, and the ship began to pulse with an intense energy. Zuriah's eyes were wide with a mix of relief and fear. Jason, what have you done? I've chosen freedom, he said quietly, his voice firm. I've chosen the future. We can't keep living like this, trapped by a law that's not ours to follow. The figure, now surrounded by swirling shadows, seemed to shimmer with fury. You may have broken the chains of the past, it whispered, its voice cold and filled with malice, but you will see what happens when the threads of the universe are torn apart. No one is free, and soon you will understand the true cost of your choice. With that, the figure vanished into the shadows, leaving Jason and Zuriah standing alone in the clearing. The ship above them began to pulse one final time before retreating into the distance, leaving only the lingering echoes of its dark presence. Jason turned to Zuriah, his heart still pounding. Is it over? Zuriah's expression was conflicted. I don't know, but you've done something no one else could. You've made a choice that no one else has dared to make, but now we must face whatever comes next. Jason took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on him. He had broken the law. He had chosen freedom, freedom for Zuriah, for her people, for humanity. But what now? What would the cost be? The journey was far from over, and the consequences of his choice had yet to unfold. The fall of orders. The clearing was silent. The air, thick with tension and the weight of Jason's decision, seemed to hum with a strange energy. He turned to Zuriah, the uncertain look in her eyes reflecting his own inner turmoil. The skies had darkened, the ship's ominous presence no longer visible, but its absence felt like a storm on the horizon. The shadows of the forest stretched long and eerie as the ground beneath them continued to tremble, as if it too sensed the seismic shift that had just occurred. What did I do? Jason whispered, though he wasn't entirely sure if he was asking Zuriah or himself. Zuriah stood motionless, her breath steadying, but the pain in her eyes hadn't faded. You did what you thought was right, she said, her voice almost mechanical. But what comes next? None of us can predict. The law is not just a command, it's a balance that has existed for millennia, and you just shattered it. Jason's chest tightened. I had no choice. They were going to control us forever. I couldn't let that happen. Zuriah nodded, her gaze drifting upward as if searching for something hidden in the distant stars. You're right. No one should live under that kind of oppression. But now, we will face the consequences. We will see the true cost of breaking the chains. The sky above seemed to crack, a sudden flash of light breaking through the clouds. Jason instinctively shielded his eyes, his mind racing with the realization that something was happening, something huge. The air was charged with an electricity he could feel in his bones. Without warning, the earth rumbled once more, louder this time. A deep, reverberating sound that seemed to come from the very core of the planet. The trees around them began to sway violently as if caught in the grip of an unseen force. Jason staggered, his hands reaching out for balance, his heart racing. "Zuriel, what's happening?" Jason shouted over the cacophony of sounds. But Zuriel wasn't listening. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the ground before her, her lips trembling in disbelief. "No, it can't be. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't what I feared." Jason turned to follow her gaze, his blood running cold as the earth split open beneath them. A massive crack ran through the ground, wide enough to swallow entire cities, the edges glowing with an eerie, pulsating light. From the depths of the earth, strange, dark shapes began to emerge, alien figures, their forms obscured by the twisting shadows. The figures were not like the hunters who had pursued them before. These beings were different, bigger, more terrifying, with eyes that glowed with an unnatural light. Their bodies shimmered in and out of existence, their movements fluid like something from another dimension entirely. They're coming," Zuriel whispered, her voice barely audible over the growing noise. "The ones who created the law, they're coming." Jason's stomach churned. "What are they? Who are they?" "The Ancient Ones," Zuriel answered. "The original rulers of the universe, the ones who bound us all with the law. They were supposed to stay hidden, locked away, but now they're free." The ground continued to shake as the beings emerged from the rift in the earth. Their forms grew clearer, and Jason could see now that they were not of flesh and blood like humans or even Zuriel's people. They were made of energy, shifting, glowing figures that radiated power and malice. The tallest of the beings, whose body rippled like a dark, living flame, spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from all directions. "You have shattered the balance, human," it said, its voice as cold and ancient as the void itself. "And now, the consequences of your actions will be felt across the cosmos." Jason's heart pounded in his chest. These were no ordinary enemies. These beings were the architects of the law, the ones who had designed the twisted system that had enslaved Zuriel's people for generations. And now, they were here to reclaim what was theirs. "You think you can undo the law?" the dark figure continued, its voice filled with an unsettling calm. "You think you can break the chains without paying the price? The balance has been disrupted. The very fabric of the universe is unraveling, and it is your fault." Jason stepped forward, his fists clenched. "I did what I had to do. No one should have to live under that kind of oppression. Not Zuriel, not anyone." Zuriel took a step back, her face pale as she watched the beings advance. "Jason, you don't understand. They will destroy everything to restore their power. The law isn't just a system, it's the foundation of the universe itself. If they have to, they will tear this reality apart to put everything back in place." The dark figure seemed to smile, though it was a terrifying sight. "You will learn what happens when one dares to defy the ancient order. You have awakened forces that should have never been disturbed. Now you will face the consequences." Suddenly the air shimmered, and the ground split wider, swallowing entire trees and large rocks in its wake. A terrifying force seemed to pulse from the depths of the rift, an energy so powerful it seemed to warp the very air around them. The energy from the beings began to coalesce, forming a swirling vortex in the sky, a storm of light and darkness that spun out of control. Jason knew they had no time. Whatever was happening, it was far beyond anything he had anticipated. These ancient beings were not just a threat. They were the universe's rulers, and their wrath was like a storm that could wipe everything from existence. Zuriel grabbed Jason's arm. "We have to go, Jason. We have to find a way to stop this. We have to undo what you've done. If not, it will all be destroyed." But Jason didn't move. His gaze was fixed on the swirling chaos above. A strange calm washed over him. He had already made his choice. He had chosen freedom. And now, no matter the cost, he would fight to the very end to protect that freedom. "You're right," he said softly, more to himself than to Zuriel. "We can't just run, we have to fight, we have to stop this." But deep inside, a lingering fear gnawed at him. Could they really stop it? Could anyone? The swirling vortex above them continued to grow, and Jason felt a sense of dread unlike anything he had ever known. The ancient order was not just a system of control. It was the very framework of reality itself. And now, by breaking it, Jason had set in motion forces beyond his comprehension. The universe was unraveling, and there was no turning back.